The gun community needs to confront this sort of ideological paradox where the gun community fears one type of authority while blindly supporting another. And I think you know what I mean. The gun community is overall wildly anti-government while being very, very pro-police. The gun community acts as though its protests against governmental interference with the Second Amendment is something that we need to stand up. In some cases, they say that we should violently stand up against it, but when we see other groups standing up against police oppression and other types of oppression sanctioned by the state, the gun community says, no, your grief and your grievances are not legitimate, only ours are. You have no right to protest and to, in some cases, threaten violence, even though the gun community would do exactly the same thing. Why is that? Why are the issues that other people have illegitimate and yours are somehow completely legitimate? That makes no sense. That's not right, is it? Consider this. If you fear a tyrannical state and you fear tyrannical measures put in place by that state, who's going to enforce that? It's going to be your local police force. That's who. And so the Second Amendment grants us parity of force with those who would oppress us, right? Like I think we can all agree that that's the intention there. Well, in recent years, the police have been gifted a lot of leftover used military equipment, stuff from the War on Terror. That is what's going to be directly used against you should any sort of tyrannical measures that you fear be put in place. And it will be used on you by your local police force, right? So why can't we say anything about that? Why can't we question that? Why is that off limits while it's okay to freely criticize all of these other things? That's not fair. The gun community has always talked about boots in the streets, right? Well, those boots are going to be police boots. But to quote my friend Deviant Olem, this is not an indictment of the police. This is an indictment of policing. That's very important. And now the gun community is calling for the police to crush the protests when they themselves have repeatedly, over the smallest infringement, cried out that we need to rise up violently against the central government or the state government or whatever they see as the enemy at the time. That's not ideologically consistent, is it? It's just because you like the police and you don't like the protesters. It's that simple. That's not fair, though, is it? And now we have oppressed groups that are literally fighting in the streets for their freedoms. And you call on this representative of authority, the police, to crush them. That does not make any sense, does it? So why do you deserve your freedoms and they don't deserve theirs? Why are your freedoms more valuable and more important? And who are you to decide whose freedoms are most valuable and most important? Think about that long and hard, please. I want you to really think about that. And remember, in many cases, those oppressed groups are fighting for the right to live peacefully and not be murdered for no damn good reason by those representatives of that authority.